Today, I'm joined by Hugo Dessi, the Global Head of BDR and a board member at Partoo, and he doesn't believe in giving SDRs massive account list. But why? Isn't more accounts equal more opportunities? Actually, Hugo's team has proven the opposite. By focusing on fewer accounts, they have seen higher conversion rates, and their influence on ARR skyrocketed from 30% to an incredible 70%. In this episode, we will break down how you've been misled about SDR efficiency and dive into Hugo's 3 key strategies to boost BDR efficiency. Welcome back to the Outbound Kitchen podcast. I'm Eric, the Outbound Chef, and this is your go-to resource for scaling Outbound. Let's get cooking. Let's start with when you joined Partoo. What was the state of the BDR team when you joined Partoo, actually?
Yeah, so basically I joined the company like almost 2 years ago. There was 32 people in the team, including managers. So I was having 5 managers, one manager for French market, another one for EMEA, so Europe plus MENA, one for ISPAM, one for Italy, and one for Iberia.
MENA, can you just remember? It's Middle East?
Yes. Middle East and North Africa, yeah.
Okay, no problem. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and when you joined the goal for you, they hired you to scale the team, or what was the goal when they hired you?
Based on this, I know Partoo since a long time ago because between Partoo and I, it was kind of a love story because we were in touch like during multiple years. So when I've joined, there was a huge topic based on performance improvement.
Okay.
So the idea was to process the team because like there was lacking of process. The company was growing a lot 2 years ago, moving from 150 employees up to 400, but the process didn't follow. Based on the stage they were at, because the company was close to 30 million ARR, the idea was to better process the BDR team in order to increase the ARR influence by the team.
And so I imagine that they had a lot of expectation when they hired you. So how did you balance the need for quick wins versus long term in your first 90 days?
So first of all, the idea was to do an audit
Okay.
to make it clear before joining. So what I've discussed with both Thibaut, so the two CEOs, and Vincent, my manager, so the CSO, I discussed with them of the necessity to do a good audit, to know first about the people, the team, and the legacy, and as well to know about the process, and for me to have a global vision about the company, where it works, the department, the sales department in general, the revenue team, and the BDR team. So I did an audit based on every element that we should keep, improve, or implement. And the one as well is that we need to delete. And the idea was to do a roadmap for the first month, the first 3 months, the first semester, the first year, and the first 3 years.
Okay. Let's focus on the 3 first months. What did you discover?
So at this time, I discovered, so first of all, that the team was like highly connected between themselves, but per territory, not as a global team. There was like good elements such as trainings on a weekly basis done by themselves on the Partoo university we have. So they were doing like online trainings in order to train themselves. So this one was really good. There was great relation between them and AE as well. And it's not the case for most of the company, or not in every company at least. And there was some elements that need to be improved, such as like number of action, organization as well.
Okay.
And let's say the communication as well between everything.
Everything. What do you mean by that? With other teams?
With the other BDR team, because like the French team was staying together, same for the ISPAM. And the idea for me was to handle like a global BDR team, because there was like ton of best practices per area that were not shared together.
Okay. Okay. And why do you think it happened? Is it because they were? I forgot to mention you, because you said you have like the team was 32 people on the team. So are they located in the same office, or are they split into different offices?
Yeah. So let's say 10 of them were based in Barcelona, and the rest of the team were based in Paris. And one of the main reasons was like, first of all, in Barcelona, we were having like the Iberian and Italian team. And in Paris, the EMEA, Hispam and French markets. So first of all, the Southern Europe, let's call it like this, was like working on the side. Then in Paris office, because most of the people in Paris office were French, and French people tend to stay together, unfortunately. There was a French team on one side, and then the Hispam and EMEA team on the other side.
And sorry, I forgot to ask you, what's Hispam?
Hispam is like Latin America.
Latin America? Okay.
Yeah.
So Spain plus Latin America or just Latin America?
Latin America is mean like all like Spanish market in the Central or South America.
Okay. Okay. And what did you do to change that, I would say?
So the idea was to choose like multiple action, some of them to implement quickly. One of the first element for me that was pretty crucial was to hire as well new people to give a second breath to the team, because most of the people in the team when I joined were already there since like 2 or 3 years. And as we know, as BDR managers, it's a job that people do not do for like 4 or 5 years. They do it like for 1, 2 or 3 years, and then there is turnover. And having newcomers as well is helping the team to still be like motivated and keep the pace. So one of the main idea for me was to find someone following my vision and the expectation I was having from this person. And it was like Melissa in my team, like the first person I've hired at this time. In order to just use this person as an example and as a champion for like my process.
Okay. Let's firstly focus on, because I have a lot of questions about this, but I just want to go back on the things you implemented when you joined. So what was one of the first decision you made that maybe for the company was counterintuitive, but was effective?
So this one was to reduce the portfolio of BDRs. So initially they were working on like 300 company attributed on a yearly basis.
Okay.
And I've decided to reduce it to like 80, but with a weekly attribution of 10, 15 companies, depending the needs of each of them. Because my manager, so the CEO basically was thinking that by not working on all of the company at the same time, we're going to lose opportunity. But the idea was to implement a faster lead cycle. So reduce the number of companies we were working on, to go deeper in the qualification and number of action we were doing per account on per contacts.
Mhm.
So then we get quicker answers. So we could attribute new company. So in the end of the quarter and at the end of the year, you will be working in more company in a more deeper way and get more results. But obviously, initially, when I was saying to people, I'm going to reduce your pipe by like 3, I'm going to divide it by 3 or 4, people were like, oh, okay, this guy is crazy. But in the end, it worked pretty well.
I imagine, can you share what was the conversion rate out of 300 accounts when you moved to 80?
I could give you, first of all, the ARR influenced by BDR. So at this time, it was around 30%.
Okay.
And right now, we stand at like 65, 70.
Okay, which is a good growth. Okay, yeah, because it's I understand why you do that, because 300 can be a lot, and actually you don't have time to research the account, or you don't have enough time to go deep into the account. I forgot to ask you at the beginning. What's the if you can share the ACV, but also what's the size of the team for the size, not the size, the size of the companies you go after? Is it like enterprise, mid-market accounts, or?
Yeah. So for us, the ACV, obviously, depending the segment that we are working on, we evolve. So let's say most of the deals are between like 15K up to 200K per territory. But the ACV, purely ACV, would be around 25, let's say 25, 30. Yeah. And most of the company, we call it enterprise on the side, but we focus in terms of POIs and not in terms of revenue per company. So we divide it per POI. So we have like multiple segmentation, but for us, it's every company above like 30 POI. So 30 shop up to 1,000.
Gotcha. let's go back on what you mentioned, because you started to talk about things that your team were doing well and things that you saw some opportunities to improve. Let's focus on the things that your team were doing well. You started to talk about the relationship with AEs. Could you share more about that and other things that you've seen working
Yeah.
well?
So for them, they were like honestly sitting at the same table as the AE,
Okay.
and they were like having a close relationship altogether. That is honestly super good and like pretty uncommon most of the time. And like at least based on my experience, most of the BDR are like stay on their side and the AE on the other side, and like there is a no man's land in the middle. And so the connection they were having between each other was really, really good. It's really helped to have a smooth transition, smooth communication, and a smooth handover from the M1 up to the opportunity. As well as the connection within the team, because those people, like those BDR at the time, were working together since a long time. They were having like a great connection, great friendship. And as I say, they were like doing on training by themselves uh, in order to like progress by doing like call sessions, or even like just product trainings on a weekly basis.
Got you. Why do you think the relationship with AEs was so good at Partoo? Is so good at Partoo, actually.
I guess it's based on the global company organization. There is a strong connection between every department, and it's really part of the DNA of Partoo. Um, and as well, because like in terms of office organization, when you have like an organization in office based on territory, and people are like, it's mandatory for them to be sit to each other. Obviously, at the end, it's creating good connection too. If you let people choose like wherever they want to sit, if you like ask them to sit by department, let's say, uh, I would have all the BDR on one side and all the AA on the other side. That for me is still okay, but means there need to be like some other like time of communication between those teams in order to create like a good synergy. Because otherwise, what could happen is like BDR will only go and ask the EAE to update the CRM, to open the opportunity, and to let the feedback on Salesforce as an example. And the EAE will come only to the BDR to complain about like meeting quality, reschedule meeting, whatever. So that's why we need to like have more occasion to communicate between each other. Otherwise, like it could be like pretty frustrating at that point.
Okay. Now, yeah, I imagine the in-office setup also works help with that, because I know it's what you are mentioning. I think that they can help. For me, just for to share, I think two companies I worked at, the relationship was not good, but I think also it's based on the how do you say it? We were not paired to A's. It was more like a round robin system. So we had like 10 15 SDRs. We round robin with 10 A's. And so you don't have any relationship with them outside of like you were mentioning. Oh yeah, the quality of the deal was not good. This company was not good. Blah 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 blah. And those who were more interesting also, we had a strong relationship with this was because we were paired with someone. The BDR was paired with an AE, and it was also, even though we were remote, it was still better. For example.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any other things that you've seen that was working well also when you
Coming
joined?
my mind right now, it's many hits.
Yep.
We were talking about pairing system or round robin system. That's totally true. It's like it was one of the main elements. And for us, it was like it's a kind of an hybrid system. So it's like a round robin for the SME, so small and medium enterprise,
Yep.
and the mid market, and a pairing system for the key accounts. So we have like this kind of like two vision at the same time, by having this round robin helping like to balance better the performance between every BDR and every AEs,
Yeah.
and as well this key account vision to have like a more like strategic aspect as well on the other side.
That's I forgot to mention that, but yeah, the two companies where it was one win was mid-market SMB, and those who were paired it was enterprise. So that's yeah, that's pretty much that. Okay, now let's focus on the things that you've seen when you joined that should be improved. So could you share like a few of them?
Yeah. So first of all, it was like the number of action. As I said, it was like around like 50 action per week per BDR. That is
How many?
roughly 50.
50? Okay. When you say action activities, one call, 50 call calls, 50 emails, or
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, okay.
Exactly. So it was pretty low, to be honest. The communication within the team, within the BDR team and marketing team and ops team. So BDR were close to the sales, but no. So for me, they were close to the last step of the funnel, but not to the previous one. It is like for me like pretty bad to do.
Yeah.
And in terms of organization, daily organization, weekly organization, manager as well organization. My managers below me. In terms of like how do they handle the team, how do they organize their one-to-one, the routine as well within the team.
Yeah.
In order for them to keep the pace, keep the vision, and bring value not only to the team but as well between the team itself.
Okay, so let's focus on. I'm going to break that down. So you said actions. The volume was 50. So what did you do with that? Did you increase it? Because you mentioned at the beginning you reduce the number of accounts per rep. So what was your move here?
So the idea was by reducing the number of accounts to have a deeper focus per account. So what does it mean? It means instead of having like 300 accounts where you're gonna do one action per week on each of them, or not even, you're gonna have like 80. So you will be able to contact 2, 3, 4 companies. So we divide the lead cycle with like multiple stages. And I was asking BDR to focus on new contact, doing more follow-ups, and as well to make sure that the past answers that they were waiting for were received. And then the new amount I was asking per week was like around 200. So we did it in multiple steps. It was not 200 directly. So I was like, okay, so the week before we were at 50. This week we go for 75. Then the week after we're gonna go for 100, 125, 150, 175, etc., etc. And doing as well training on time management, how to organize properly your calendar by adding colors, by adding slot into it, in order for you to have like a deep focus. And do not put like a 3 hours prospection timing, but to divide it in like smaller slot of like half an hour, 45 minutes, about like, okay, identification, mailings, cold callings, for them to have like a quick win by the end of the day. Even if they didn't receive any positive answers, I told them, as long as you do the process, when you follow the process, the recipe will work.
Yeah.
So the idea was just like follow every step, and then the outcome of receiving meetings, positive answer, will come in the end, no matter what. So just be patient, and it's gonna work.
I'm curious about the activities. I know you shared earlier about the percentage of error sourced by your team. When you change the activity level, obviously we know revenue increase, but did you see an improvement also with repair rate on your team? Oh.
So repair rate, I was not following it that much. The repair rate honestly was pretty good by mailing, but there was not enough like cold calling based on my expectation.
Okay.
So we mainly focus on the cold call side as well, because cold call is an easy way for you to increase volume without like losing ton of time. An email in general is gonna take you between 5 or 10 minutes for per company. Even if you are like sending it to 3 or 4 people, it's gonna take you time to do personalization, etc. While doing a cold call, you're gonna save some time. So it was a good way for them to optimize the number of action.
Okay.
And as well to go for cross channels by sending like LinkedIn messages as well, or WhatsApp, depending on the market.
And when you move to 200 actions, did you add like an expectation? Did you have an expectation for each channel, or they are free to use their 200 actions, whatever they want?
So basically, depending on the market, there were like a recommendation. Because when you are targeting UKI or Northern Europe, obviously cold calling is working less compared to Southern Europe. So the idea was to do a right balance between each market.
Okay.
For Southern Europe people, it was mainly sending more emails. For Northern Europe BDRs, it was doing more cold calls. So the plan was adapted per local market.
Okay. you said also something that was not working well. Was a relationship with marketing and operations. So because the relationship was pretty good with AEs, but what was happening with marketing and operations?
So it's not that it was bad, but it was not that
Not bad, but what could be improved?
yeah. So basically, like weekly communication.
Okay.
Based on the content, based on the next event, the next like following the marketing plan. Like marketing was working on the side, BDR as well. So the idea was just to strengthen this relation between each of them because like the marketing action will help the BDR team.
Yep.
And the BDR could give like good feedbacks to marketing for them to improve the campaign and to improve like webinar topic or content topic, whatever.
Okay. So what I'm hearing here, it's the communication. So maybe the marketing team, the relationship, what you help with was having the calendar of marketing, and so you can be focused on that also at the same time. Oh.
Yeah, but for example, the calendar, the marketing calendar didn't exist at this time. It happened during the year. The amount that of marketing leads that they were sending were huge, but without verification before.
Yep.
Meaning there was like a low drop, high drop between what they sent to us and what we were able to contact and get meeting with. So the idea was mainly to revamp the funnel from marketing with ops and BDRs to AE.
Yep.
In order to make it more smooth and more aligned between the vision that we were having, meaning more volume but quality following it as well. And for this, what does it mean? It means having a weekly meeting between marketing for the French team and the French BDR for them to be like up to date based on the content, on the articles, on the event. As well, BDRs requesting new content for specific industry or specific segment because maybe sometimes we were lacking from one content or not or one industry. And then with the ops, the idea was to harmonize the reports, harmonize the dashboard we were following, harmonize the attribution as well, and the scoring system that we were doing for the marketing team.
When you say scoring system, are you talking about account scoring or lead scoring?
Yeah, I'm MQL scoring based on behavioral and demographical aspect. So in the past, it was just based on behavioral. So if you were doing ton of action, you will be considered as an MQL, even if your company was outside of a target. So the idea was to add the job position, company segment, industry, and market in order to cross it with the action to make it like works properly and receive like really like qualified MQL in the end.
Yeah, because behavioral is not enough. Because you have a student with a lot of high score at the end.
Okay.
I just want to go back to the actions also. What you were talking about, they had 50 actions. When you move to 200 actions, you said that you also help with time management. What do you think was the problem with just doing 50 activities? It was just the expectations, or they didn't have enough time during the day, or what was?
It was a shared responsibility. Why? Because there was a moment in Partoo where there was no head of BDR.
Okay.
The previous one left the company. Then the time for me to join, there was like around 6-8 months for them without management.
I got you.
And when there is no management, obviously, the manager were pretty junior at this time. It's not their responsibility as well, but like obviously the action required before were not that much. Obviously, there is no manager following it. So you tend to change the approach to do it in your way. But sometimes too smooth. And the job as well as a head of BDR is to make sure that we keep the pace and not only based on volume, but based on quality. But there is a question of dynamism and organization mainly. And in the end, it's what like pretty disorganized more than like lazy people.
Yeah, because something that and I've seen that, for example, at company I used to work at, we are moving from inbound to outbound motion, and outbound is here. It's I know it's not the same situation about moving from inbound to outbound, but outbound it's really focused on operational rigor because it's obviously you need volume, but also quality into your volume, and if you don't have enough volume, well, even though your conversion rate is high, well, it's not enough. So yeah, okay, I get it. Now let's focus on maybe, if we did not talk about that yet, but you're talking about time management for SDRs, but you mentioned also for managers. What did you change with your frontline managers?
So with the manager, we change first of all, the routine. So we get like a 1 hour meeting together to define that I was preparing and they were preparing as well on their side.
Yeah.
So the idea was not only that we look on the data, but like to analyze the data. So there was a new report that we create when I arrived. Why? Because I changed like some KPIs that we were focusing on.
Okay.
So during this weekly routine, they were looking at some KPIs and trying to do an analysis. I was helping them as well to have like this more like analytical skills because I was more used to those statistics than them. So it was as well my mission to
Yeah.
give a good understanding about why we should follow on a weekly, monthly, and quarterly for the team performance, but as well why we need to focus on the daily, weekly, and monthly performance for the BDR itself. So the idea was to cross some data between the team and individuals. As well, we implement a global BDR meetings.
Yeah.
A BDR meeting all together with managers and BDRs and
Okay.
with managers, just for them to realize that sometime a project that they were starting for their area was already done 1 week, 1 month, 1 year before in another market. So by just like reinforcing the communication between them, they were saving some time as well.
Okay. Let's go back to KPIs because actually I was going to ask you the question, but George was the first one asking the question. So George is asking what kind of KPIs what we focus on.
Yeah. So when I've joined, the main KPIs were meeting booked and validation rate. So the validation rate was between meetings done and opportunity creation. Meaning we were moving from book to validation to opportunity stages right after, but it was like too large based on the funnel we have as BDR. So I keep the number of meeting booked. I implement as well the number of meetings on target. We implement a number of amount of opportunity to create, and we are focusing on opportunity created. So basically, I delete the validation rate because it was kind of creating a fake data between done and opportunity that could be perceived as good, even if it was not that much. So we were having booked, done, opportunity influenced, pipe generated, ARR generated, action, and those were like the main KPIs we were focusing on.
Okay. Actually, when you say you are talking about qualified, what do you what method qualification process do you use? Do you use Bound? What do you use?
So at this time, and currently we are still using Bound, but without budget for A&T, and we implement as well Medic. And we're gonna follow Medic method for 2025 because the main idea is to have the same qualification method for both BDRs, SAIDs, A's, and CS, and to have all be aligned based on the question and the element we need to go and check.
Got you. We have another question from Marigona, but actually, Marigona, could you elaborate a little bit more on? Okay, meanwhile, Marigona is going, because I asked her to elaborate more on the question, but we have another question from Alex. So, what is the value of adding a validation stage between the meeting booked and the opportunity? What is the impact on pipeline value and quality, and how do you measure consideration rates?
At this time, because they were not focusing on meetings done and neither opportunity, the validation rate was still pretty good because from meetings done to opportunity, it gives you like kind of a in-between statistics that was always pretty high because the meeting was done. It was not only an opportunity. So if you get 100 meetings booked, 80 meetings done, let's say 75 of them or 70 are like validate, and then you get only 50 opportunities, the validation rate was super high, even if the number of opportunity right after was below. So it was giving like false tips, false like indication about performance. So the idea was to divide it in order to be based on the value created and not on expected performance, such as meeting booked and validation, because it's not like performance in real, it's just like expectations that you may have.
No, it's fine. I was going to ask you, who is the person saying is a validated meeting, for example? Because if you go back to the relationship between BDRs and AEs, most of the time it's the AE saying it's validated or it's qualified, for example. So is it the AE or what was the word about that?
Yeah. So the last it was done by the AE, but because it was not a criteria that could be like defined, it was like based on emotion, based on relation between people.
Yep.
So as long as it's not a data that you could like track on based on like key element and like factual elements, there will be like a mess. And this was one of the main reasons we decided to move to opportunity on meetings done, because it helped us to like make sure that everyone was aligned. And one of the elements to check it was the open rate per AE. Because when you check the open rate of opportunities per AE, you could identify quickly if one of them is like opening too early or too late. So what was the impact, just to finish the question of Alex?
Yep.
The impact on pipeline, in the beginning, we just increased the volume, but like pretty fast, we as well increased the number of deal qualified and opportunity, resulting in an improvement of 15% more or less, because when I joined, we were like 30% conversion rate from meetings done to opportunity. And right now we stand at like 50, 55.
And how do you measure? And the other part of the question was, how do you measure cancellation rates?
So cancellation rate, for me, I'm doing like any of a specific way. If you just like move to the next day, I don't care. If it's staying the same week, for me, it's fine. If it's like postponed to the week after, I'm asking BDR to put it on Salesforce, because we have like Google Invite and Salesforce. So sometimes when it's still within the week, we just change the Google Invite. When we change from one week to the other, I'm asking them to change it as well on Salesforce. For me, the main idea is to say, okay, we stay above 85% of completion rate.
Okay.
And then within the 15, it should be like around 5% cancellation, 10% rescheduling.
Okay. The other, so Marigona, she elaborated a bit more about a question. So the question was, did the team have any KPIs such as number of leads, customer call, or emails to understand the action it takes to book a meeting?
So what I've told them on those is based on the market, is like to get an answer from one specific prospect is going to take you like around 30 action. And these numbers tend to increase. Why? Because there is more and more people doing BDR jobs. So the prospects are more used to receive cold calls, cold emailing. At this time, I was not able to follow clearly the number of action. At least for the call, I was able to, but not for the email. But by just tracking the number of action in the end, we just realized that more action mean more results. This one is a key data that I know BDRs are always complaining about, but data never lies. And this one is like a true fact. When they do more action, there is more results. Even if it's not for this week, in the end, it's going to work. So the idea is like not only to push on the volume, but just to make sure that they will have enough pipe for the day after. Basically, on my side, I prefer to have one BDR doing 100 of action to get 10 meeting booked, instead of a BDR doing 10 action for 10 meeting booked. Why? Because the one doing 100 of action will make sure that he will have some like other meetings to get done and booked during the coming days, because it prepares the pipe of tomorrow. When you do the one for today only, if the market is less responsive, then your performance will be impacted. When you have this margin of progress by contacting more people, you can make sure by pushing a bit more on like pressuring a bit more the prospect, that you're gonna have like the pipe, necessary pipe for you to be on target.
Okay. I have a follow-up question, then I'm going to ask Alex question. But just to add on top of what you are saying, for the problem with just quality, focus just on quality, on activity, is you have a ceiling because even though you do your best, you do your research, depending on the market, maybe the US, the max I've seen was 6 to 10% repair rate. Even though you add more efforts on that, you can do more than that. So that's why also you have the quality approach and the volume approach, and you need to find the right balance. And so even though you were saying earlier 50 activities, even though you do your maximum in terms of quality, at some point, it's not going to increase more your repair rate. You can do more than that. So completely understand why you did that specifically. Now let's focus on the next question. So sure, on stream. So Alex was asking, interesting to know how you standardize the meeting validation opportunity confirmation criteria part 2 to avoid discrepancies between different A's. Really good question.
So first of all, keep in mind the validation rate just disappeared. I was focusing on meetings done and opportunity created. Based on this, we did a good, like a big communication on it to train not only the BDRs, but as well the AE. So there was a qualification template fulfilled by every BDR when they sent an M1. If the M1 is sent without the qualification template, the AE got the right to say no to do it. Why? Because he don't have enough info for him to do the meeting properly. So first, responsibility of the BDR to fulfill the info, send it properly to the AE, and make sure like it's accurate.
Where do you send? Where do you send that? Is it on Salesforce, Slack? What's the?
In the chatter or meeting description on Salesforce. Yeah. Then for the AE, it was just to make clear, and so to put it on both the wiki of Partoo and as well to do training to them, and make sure that with the manager of AE we were aligned of the criteria. The criteria are Partoo can answer a pain in the next 6 months, and for 6, 3, or 9 months, depending the segment, obviously. And the prospect that we were meeting is a potential like a potential champion, or the decision maker, or someone who would be able to influence the deal in the end. If those criteria were met, then they were able to open the opportunity. Because we know at the first stage, obviously, it's not going to convert that much. But like for us, the conversion between open opportunity to close one is like around 20%.
What I like about what you've done here with the A team also is it's not like based on feelings. It's really based on facts. So it's not like, oh no, I don't know if it's qualified, but it's okay. Check, and then you can say it's qualified. So
yeah, and obviously the idea is to to make sure it's gonna work on a long term.
Yeah.
So every head of sales per territory is having a bi-weekly meeting with the BDR manager per territory for them to check the feedback of the AE per M1 done and the qualification done by the BDR to make sure that the opportunity was open, or why is the reason to do not open it. So then we can do some training as well to the BDR for them to be more like efficient in the way of qualifying. And that's why as well we asked BDR to go to at least one M1 per week and one MX every week too, for them to get a fully vision about the sales cycle, not only for one AE, but with all of them to get like a complete vision.
Now, last question on the things you fixed, but what could you share like a problem that you fixed that seems simple on the surface but turned out to be really complex to fix?
It was the attribution system.
Okay.
So the attribution system was it could be perceived as like pretty smooth to do, but in the end it's like pretty touchy. Why? Because first of all, you're gonna say to the people, I'm gonna take like 2/3 of your pipe to put it in nurturing phase. So obviously people are like, yeah, but I know I'm having some business to do into it, etc., etc. So first you need to make them choose the companies they would like to continue working on the one you're gonna put into nurturing phases. Then on a weekly basis, you're gonna do a recycle, meaning for every negative answers, it's gonna go in nurturing for 4 months. And after 4 months, it's gonna come back to a starting position. That means you will be able to give it to someone else. It's not because you work on the account 4 months ago or the weeks ago that I'm gonna give it back to you. Why? Because the good work you have done to this account will maybe benefits to someone else, because you already get your try to make it work. It do not happen and it's okay. So from time to time, I'm gonna give it back to you, but most of the time I'm gonna give it back to someone else. Why? Because the account is not yours, it's like company's ownership. And people need to understand that you get a chance, it didn't work, and it's fine. What I'm not asking you is not this specific logo. I'm asking you about an amount of opportunity to generate.
Okay.
And to make it work with workflow automation based on the importance, the criteria, and the prospect needs. This one was more tough than expected. More tough. I know it was tough, but more tough to explain to the people for them to say, yeah, it's gonna work, no worries.
Yeah, because when you join, but actually I think it's also correlated to what you're mentioning about moving to 80 accounts per rep. But when they were managing 300 accounts for the year, it was it like you have the ops team giving them 300 accounts and then they can do whatever they want. And now when you move to that, the ops team was helping you, like having like automatic system for that, or what was the?
Yeah, exactly. So I have a dedicated ops for the BDR team.
Okay.
In charge of doing the weekly attribution for them, for the SME and mid-market, because the key accounts are attributed for 1 year. So there is a fixed pipe that do not move for 1 year, like a smaller one based on the key account. And then a part of it, let's say 60% of it, that is mid-market and SME, and those one are moving on into the lead cycle from prospection, negotiation, nurturing, prospection, negotiation, nurturing, etc., etc. And this one was done by the ops in order to make obviously all the table, check about the amount we should give per week, try to automate it in a proper way for every market, because the criteria depending the market are not the same. Depending the segment as well is not the same, so it's a bit more complex. But in the end, it's a good machine to make works.
Now, I would love to focus on board meetings because, like I mentioned in the intro, you are the only SDR leader, BDR leader that goes to board meetings. I'm curious, how do you prepare for board meetings?
Honestly, I prepare it for me, it's preparing the performance or making sure about the statistics on the KPIs that you are having. So I'm spending at least, because board meeting are on Tuesday mornings, and I know on Wednesday evening or not Wednesday, sorry, Sunday evening or Monday morning and Monday afternoon, I'm spending around 2 hours to prepare statistics for the week for the team and as well for the board. The idea is not only to come up with problems, but as well with solutions or development plan for the company in general. Because sometimes you could highlight some elements not only for you, but for some other departments. And the idea is just to share this strategical vision with everyone and to decide about the priority.
Okay, and what was the top 3 metrics you were sharing to them? Because I know we talked a lot about a lot of metrics earlier, but for the board meeting specifically, what metrics were you sharing?
Pipeline creation, because pipeline is one of the main one to focus, because the ARR is directly impacted by the AE. And it's for me, ARR is for the AE, pipeline is for BDRs. So it was mainly pipeline and meetings done, achievement rate. Based on this, you would know almost if the AE team will get enough for the day after or in 1 month or in 2 months. And the idea was to make sure that the business we provide will be sufficient in order for them to be on target in the next quarter, because there is almost 1 month and a half, 3 months delay between what we work on and then the impact on the AE side.
Okay. And I forgot to ask you earlier about the pipeline coverage. What was for the AE side, what was the pipeline coverage that you need to achieve? I'm asking this question because at my previous company, if it was inbound, most of the time it was 2-3x the pipeline.
Yeah.
To close, and outbound it was more than it. So
yeah. So for us, basically, I don't make any more distinction between in or out. I'm calling it all bound directly.
okay.
Well, because most of the accounts are already being working on by marketing and sales team. So making the distinction between each of them is pretty messy.
Okay.
The idea is to make sure when it's coming from an event to monitor it, because obviously it means then we need to go back there the next year. But the coverage that we are looking for basically is time 5, just to make sure.
Okay, time for. Okay. Now I had some question because right now I'm super curious to know that how you do that at Partoo. But let's talk about AI. How do you use AI at Partoo?
So far, not enough.
Not enough? Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
Yeah. Obviously, everyone is aware about it. ChatGPT help us a lot just to prepare an email, prepare a cadence, prepare an intro, checking about numbers, checking about plenty of elements. So for me, I'm asking the BDR team to use it more and more. And they even sometimes come up to me with fresh idea about how to use it. Or do they use it in terms of personalization or customization? We use as well intent to know the job position from one past client to a prospect client, for example. Honestly, it's a topic that will have a huge impact. Today is not like that, how do you say, efficient.
Okay.
It's more an extension
Yeah.
for BDR to improve their performance than a tool that replace the BDR team. Everyone is like thinking about BDR is going to disappear. For me, I'm not agree at all on this. For me, it's just like an extra tool that you're going to use in order to improve your performance. So maybe we won't need 20 BDRs, but maybe only 15. Why? Because we're going to optimize and increase the number of actions that people will be able to do to make them save some time on the personalization, writings of emails, whatever. But this kind of human touch that you have while on the phone, even while sending an email, this one is something too smart for AI to replace it. And people are still looking for human interaction at the end of the day. So obviously, we need to implement it, and it's something that we should work on to put it on all the how do you say time-taking action.
Yeah.
But then obviously, don't forget to use like human interaction, because the personalization you will do would be like far more qualitative in the end.
Yeah. So right now I'm collecting a lot of what top BDR team are doing or Outbound team are doing. And no, yeah, like you said, for cold calling for now, it's not something you can replace. And unfortunately, you won't be replaced by AI for that. That's the way it is. But are you familiar with Perplexity?
Perplexity, I heard about it. Let me just check.
Yeah.
Perplexity.
Yeah. So it's more like an advanced version of Google, basically.
Yeah.
But for if you go after enterprise account, I think it's a really good tool if you want to go do some research, quick research, because it can gather information from different online resources, and AI can summarize the information about your account. So basically, if you have like a public traded company, it can give you the most recent earning call, the most recent 10K annual report, and they can give you summarize the part that you are interested in, for example. And it's way better than ChatGPT, for example, to that. But that's an example of, for enterprise, I think it's a really good help for that.
Okay.
Let's go back to intent. You also talking about tracking previous customers. So how do you track that?
So we just use data chimp on this.
Okay.
So the idea is like to check one position to the other, because most of the time we talk in startup about technical depth for the platform, but as well there is a technical depth based on contact optimization. When you have like 30K contact into your database, you can make sure that after 1 year or two, 1/3 of it will be already outdated, and you need to optimize it. And honestly, when you are spending like, since Partoo is creating, so more or less 10 years, every account has been already targeting at least one time.
Yeah.
People know you already. Knowing that they move from a client company to a prospect company is a key info for you to know and to use in order to like improve and sign contract faster. Because if people are satisfied and they move to the next company, sometimes they're gonna call you directly, but sometimes you need to go and chase them in order for you to get like quick answer and quick win too.
Yeah, I was asking you because for me that's a topic for every company I'm working with. This specific use case for the BDR team is when the company is pretty small, you have like not a lot of customers in your database. It's pretty easy to track them. For example, you can use SalesNav, have your customer list in SalesNav, and you can track that. It's really easy when you have like 100 customers. But when you start getting 1,000 customers, for example, it starts to be really messy to use SalesNav for that. So
yeah, definitely.
one last question for me. And then also feel free to add your questions if you have more questions in the chat. Sorry. I didn't see. Okay, I don't know why I didn't get the notification, but okay. I'm asking this last question and then we can go on into the question. So, knowing what you know now, if you could go back to day one at Partoo, what's one thing you have done? You would have done differently?
Take more time. People from my team know me pretty well, and in Partoo in general as well. I'm like high intensity, let's say. Sometime in order to do better, like conduct of change, you need to take more time to get better adoption rate from people. And sometimes you need to understand as well that you cannot win every battle, and you need to choose the one that you really want to focus on wisely. Because what could happen is like when you want to go too fast and have only a win on your side, the adoption rate will be lowered. And the idea is like by just giving some small battle win to someone else into the team, into the department, or into like the company in general, the adoption and the number of ambassadors you can have would be higher, and they're gonna spread the voice by themselves too. So it's gonna be easier for you to communicate and implement afterwards. And for me, it was something during the first 3 months that I like underestimate a bit, to be honest. And that if I was having the occasion to do differently, I would have done differently.
Nicely said. Now let's focus on, we have 7 minutes left, so we have 3 questions actually that I didn't see, but let's focus on the last one from Argona because it was about the tool. So what tool did you use to get contact for leads, customers? Lucia, ZoomInfo, right?
Yeah, so far not that much. So we have obviously LinkedIn, Lucia, looking for cadencing tools. So the decision is not made yet. So we were working with Salesloft and Salesforce engagement in the past. Ideas to change. So decision is not made. We're still looking for it. So the tool stack honestly is like pretty basic. We don't have that much. But because on our side, we're like lucky enough to get access to the data that the prospect need to improve. Because we're working on a GBB card, reviews, in general, like those are like public info that you can access directly on Google or internet in general. So while doing the personalization, I'm having access to it. And this one is like kind of a golden privilege that we have so far, and that we are using honestly in a good way.
We had also a question from George asking about what were the main points of resistance from the side of AEs on opening an opportunity.
Yes, this one is a really good one. I'm always impressed why AE are like afraid about opening opportunities. And for me, it's like on this sentence came from a good friend as well working in Partoo, Oswald. And he compared it to a soccer player when they attempt to a goal and they miss it. And what we are looking in the end of the year is a leaderboard, number of goals you're gonna score, not the number of attempts you're gonna have. And AEs most of the time they are like, yeah, I don't want because then my win ratio is gonna decrease. But I don't know any head of sales manager checking the win ratio when the AE is on target or when the AE is like opening enough pipe for him to be like covered in the end. So it's just like some mental barrier people are putting themselves in order to be in like in a secure position. But in the end, by just doing this, you are just creating what do you say, an environment for you to be like in danger. Why? Because you will not have enough pipe, meaning this pipe need to be converted for sure. And you do not anticipate by having a prepared pipe for the day after as well. And like opening opportunities do not mean for you to convert all of them. It's just to make sure that the pipe of today or the one of tomorrow will get you cash in the end.
And I can also answer a question about that specifically because actually Piper, I didn't understand why they were saying no to open opportunity, and then I sit with the AE manager to understand the compensation plan of the AEs, just trying to understand. And at Chili Pepper, I don't know if they changed that, but when I used to work there, basically their quota was increasing based on the number of opportunities they were opening. So basically, they had some incentive to not open opportunities. So they were sometimes trying to find like a way to say, oh no, this one is not like I'm not going to say it's qualified, because if they say it was qualified, it's going to increase their quota. So here, I knew that was something, for example, that's why they were not really aligned with us to open an opportunity.
Yeah. But in that way, it's like kind of counterproductive because it's impacting as well the coverage you're going to have. For us, the AI commission is just based on the percentage at the closing, so it's easier.
Yeah.
That's what it's like kind of education you need to do on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis to make sure like it's aligned every day.
Yeah, and for me specifically here, what I did is just trying to understand why they were saying no, because it was pretty simple. For us, it was pretty simple to say yes or no to an open opportunity, and they were trying to find like little things in the opportunity to say no, it's not qualified. But yeah, that's a classic great relationship between BDRs and A's.
Cool.
One last question from Arigona, so that I missed. So to improve conversion from meeting to opportunity, did you only work on improving communication between BDR and A's?
No, so one of the main idea was to implement factual criteria to do not get in a space for like misunderstanding between BDRs and A's. The more factual you are, the more easy it is to make sure the criteria are like there or not. So it was this main reason, and the next one was to check open rate per BDRs and per A's to know if maybe one of them on the BDR side is like top performing on doing like a better qualification, and make sure every BDR is like converting in the same ratio more or less, and to keep the best practice from one to the other to do some peer learnings. On the A side, the idea was to know if one of them was like pretty restrictive or like too kind with BDR, let's say, by opening too much with having a win ratio based on opportunities that was lower or higher, and to teach them the proper way to open, or if it was too early or too late, just for them to open it at the right time, because as well it's impacting the global forecast. Because if they open too late or too early, then the forecast is not accurate. And in the end, we cannot estimate the ARR we're going to sign by the end of the year too.
Well, Hugo, thank you so much for being on the live today. We're already at the end and we don't have more questions, so we answer all the questions that we got today. So Hugo, thank you so much for being on the live today. Before we wrap up, if someone wants to connect with you, what's the best way?
LinkedIn directly.
Directly?
Okay. My LinkedIn and
Perfect. So what I'm going to do is, I don't know if it's tomorrow or Friday, I'm going to share the recording and I'm going to add your LinkedIn also. And if people, and also if they want to connect, they can let me find your LinkedIn and send it right now. But for those who are going to listen to the recording, I'm going to add the link. So thanks everyone for joining. And yeah, of course. Thanks everyone. I see you on the next episode, next live. If you find this live with Hugo useful, you might enjoy my newsletter, Outbound Kitchen. You get a free version every Sunday. And last week, I sent 11 ways to use AI for Outbound. And there is also a paid version where you receive more in-depth content. And I sent already 4. The last one was a guide I wrote, crafting the ideal Outbound SDR comp plan that motivates SDRs and drives business results. The previous one was your 24/7 call coach. The previous one was about tripling outbound strategy. And the one before, and the first one was the cold calling playbook for 2025. The next one will be the enterprise prospecting playbook. If you are interested, subscribe using the link in the description.